day of the month of Iyar, and we are learning Maseches Shekalim Daf Chaf Amud Beis. We are holding right towards the bottom of Chaf Amud Aleph, and we're just going to share the link in the chat so that Hashem Chavrat will be able to follow along. And there we go. The Gemara had told us, getting to the right place here. The Gemara told us at the bottom of Chaf Amud Aleph. Somewhat it is. There we go. Starting from the Gemara. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lines. From the bottom of the page, 7 lines from the bottom of the page, the Mishnah had told us about lost animals that you know are korbanos, and what the din is, and who has to pay for the nesachim and the various takanos of the beis din to make sure that the nesachim were taken care of. And the Gemara is now going to question the discussion on the premise of the Mishnah with an interesting consideration. Says the Gemara, he said as follows. His question was, the whole Mishnah is not talking about somebody that is found an animal and is bringing that as an olah, but instead he is going to be using it. He's going to be using it by redeeming it onto money. Meaning he's not going to bring this animal as a korban. He's going to bring the monetary value of this Mishnah. Why is that important? Because if you found a male animal and you wanted to bring it as an olah, so you can't because it might be a shlomim. So you bring it as shlomim, you can't because it might be an olah. So what does the guy do? He found the animal and he says, okay, it might be an olah, it might be a shlomim. I don't know. So I'm going to then redeem this with a t'nai, with a condition. I'm going to say, if this is a shlomim, then I'm redeeming onto the value of a shlomim onto here. And if it's an olah, then I'm redeeming the money onto here. Now I have two bunches of money. Then that animal I can do whatever I want with, and I now can take that money and buy an olah and a shlomim. So basically, you find one animal and you pay for two to bring on the mizbech. Says the Gemara, Amar le Rabbi Yochanan. This is Rabbi Yochanan. That doesn't make sense. Since when do we tell people that you can willingly, wantonly go take the money, take something that is kachim and redeem it onto money? Meaning, once you want to be mechalal this onto money, why? There's nothing wrong with this animal. Since when can you take an animal that's 100% good to be used as a korban and be mechalal onto money just because you don't know which korban it is? So he says, so that cannot be the case. Ella, it must be that the Mishnah is passing according to the majority. Which effectively reads the opposite way around. If, but like since the Rav of Zcharim Ma'alas and since the Rav of Nekevas are Shlomim, that's what you do. So if you found a male animal, we say that there is a Rav that this is an olah. And if it's a female animal that you found, then we say that it's a shlomim. Meaning we're passing them by rov here. We're not redeeming it onto money. You actually bring that animal, not double the value. Now the Gemara challenges the whole premise. It says the Gemara, since when do you automatically say that an animal that's a zachar, a male animal, is definitely an olah? We have shlomim that come both from zacharim and nekevos. How do you say that any animal that you found that's male has to be an olah? Says the Gemara, so what do you do? What do you do when you found a male animal? You turn it into chulin, and then you go and you make it turning over onto Daf Chaf Amud Beis. Once you you take it out to a state of chulin, and you wait until it becomes chulin. You wait until it develops a mum, and then at that point in time, the zachar you have to make into two separate animals. You have to make it into a shlom and into an olah. Says the Gemara, Amr Rabbi Zera, top of Shekalim, Chaf Amud Beis, which is our Amr for today. Says Rabbi Zera, we can explain the whole Mishnah differently. How do we explain the Mishnah? Kama da'at amar taman, just like you Chaver say over there, meaning with regards to another Mishnah, Tanai based in whom there is a condition of the based in al ha moisaros she yikruvu olas, on the leftovers, that's the leftovers of a chatas that you are going to be bringing as an ola. So if you have any leftover money that was, I'm setting aside this amount of money for a chatas, and the leftovers, what do you do with that? You bring that as an ola. That is a stipulation. You have that as a baked-in condition. Any time that you set aside money for a chatas, it's with the intention that leftovers go for an ola. Based-in says that. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Zera explains the Mishnah, Kain Atmar, so you can also say, Uf hacha, regards to this din, Tanai based in, that this is all the Tanai based in. Al ha ovdas sheyikru olas, that any time that you lose an animal, it gets brought to as an ola. Meaning, you don't have to wonder, is this animal, this behemoth zachar, is this now a shlomim or is this an ola? Just say it's an ola. Easy peasy. Every time that you set aside a korban, you say, and if it gets lost, it defaults to an ola. The Gemara now challenges that. Amr Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yaakov Bar Acha says, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yaakov, and it's a mizid. How can you bemazid intentionally switch from one kedusha to another kedusha? It used to be shlomim. You say, okay, and if it gets lost, then it turns into an ola. How does it just turn into an ola? That doesn't make any sense. You can't switch from one korban to another. He says, since it is a condition of the basin, this is not an intentional switching. This is now a default setting. That any time that an animal gets lost, it's going to default to that. That is baked in not when it gets lost. It's baked in at the point in time that you dedicated this animal. You dedicate it as a shlamim on condition that it remains in your possession. You know where it is. The moment that it gets lost, automatically turns into an ola. Says the Gemara, here we go. Says the Gemara, Amar Rabbi Yasa, says Rabbi Yasa, Ad da'anataman, while I was still in Babel before I came to Eretz Yisrael, and we've seen this Gemara before, Shamas Kal Rabbi Yehuda Shal Shmuel, I heard the voice of Rabbi Yehuda asking Shmuel about a din of Shakla B'meis. We've seen this twice now, that if you see, at least twice, if you lose your, somebody separated a shekel and then died, Amarle, so he says, even a nadava, then it has to end up as a nadava. It is going to turn into the collection of voluntary sacrifices. And the same with regards to, and then he also asked, with regards to the Asir Sa'ifa, the 10th of an ephah that the Kohen Gadol brings every single day, what happens if he dies? Rabbi Yochanan says, you have to take those monies and that he set aside for the leftovers of the Kohen Gadol's Asir Sa'ifa money, and throw that into the Dead Sea. That cannot be used for anything. Rabbi Elazar says, he says, no problem. You can add that as a contribution to voluntary korbanos. The Asir Sa'ifa shel Kohen Gadol. Now we're going to discuss how the Asir Sa'ifa works for the Kohen Gadol. How did he bring it every day? Rabbi Yochanan says, he splits it up, and then he's mekadesh, meaning he takes his money, he buys the flour, and then once he's bought it, he splits it into two. And then he says the first one, this half is going to be in the morning, and later the second part is going to be brought in the afternoon. Rabbi Shimon Lakish disagrees. He says the opposite, where a mekadesh, first you mekadesh it, and then he divides it. And the Gemara now is, and this is Rabbi Shimon Lakish's point to Rabbi Yochanan, the Mishnah seems to disagree with Rabbi Yochanan, because it says Mishnah Makriv Mechza Avad. What happens if in the case of a Kohen Gadol that dies? So Makriv Mechza, the first half is offered, Mechza Avad, and the other half has to be destroyed. The other half of it has to be destroyed. It says the Gemara, Rabbi Yochanan explains it as follows: Patala, let's explain it. Shekain afilu mas yachul yam melech. Rabbi Yochanan says that the second half of the Asura Seifa has to be destroyed, because even leftover money that was going to be used to buy the Minchas Chavitin has to go to the Yam HaMelech. Meaning, it's not a question of whether it's Mekadesh and then split up. Our Mishnah is not talking. The Mishnah are not talking about that at all, because as far as the Mishnah is concerned, half of it's going to go to the Yam HaMelech regardless, and everybody agrees to that. It's simply a question of in what order it happens, and that is not dependent on whether or not it would need to be destroyed in what way. Okay, then the Gemara says, challenging Rish Lakish. The end of that, say, Mishnah is going to disagree with Rabbi Shimon Lakish, because it says when nimtzu shnei chatzayin krevin v'shnei chatzayin avudim. You can have a situation that you have two on the same day. You can have two Asir Seifa halves, meaning two halves of Asir Seifa that are brought, and two halves that are going to be destroyed. How would that ever happen? So that would happen if you have two Kohen Gadol on the same day. So each one of them, the Chara, has to separate an Asir Seifa. Half of it has to be brought in the morning. That's the first Kohen Gadol, and then he dies. What do you do with the rest of it? It has to be put in the Yam HaMelech, or the money, or the flour has to be destroyed. And the second half, according to Rabbi Shimon Lakish, at least, and this is what we're challenging, you're going to have half. The second Kohen Gadol is going to, assuming that we appointed a second Kohen Gadol that day, the second Kohen Gadol is also going to have to bring an Asher Seifa, but only half of it is going to be brought. The first half is going to be destroyed. Says the Gemara, Allah mechza rishon mechza sheni tu v'tzurason v'yatzu lebeis sheifa. The first half, mechza rishon mechza sheni. The first half and the second half of the respective Kohanim Dalim, tu v'tzurason, have to be left to rot effectively. V'yatzu lebeis sheifa, and then you go and burn them. What does it sound like? It works good according to Rabbi Yochanan, but according to Rish Lakish, why would you have to burn it? Why would you? Why would you have to wait? Why do you have to wait until it has Iru Tzura, until you burn it? It has already been Niskadesh. So now it's possible. You should burn it immediately. Why do you have to wait? Says the Gemara Pater La Rabbi Shmuel. Rish Lakish says no. This Mishnah goes according to the din of Rabbi Shmuel. The Amar, he holds Asir that he says Isarain Mekadesh. The moment that it is scooped up, the Isarain, that's the measuring device that was used to scoop it up, that flour, that already makes it kadosh. And since it is already kadosh, even though it hasn't, even though I hold it in general that everybody else thinks that first you separate it and then you mekadesh it, according to Rabbi Shmuel, the being mekadeshing happens immediately. Says the Gemara now. Okay, whenever a kohen is first inducted into the avoda of being a kohen, meaning he has a period of time where he has to study to learn to be a kohen, and then he has to practice, and then his first day doing the avoda. There's a special covering that is brought on the first time that a kohen is doing the avoda. Maybe asir seifa shalai. He brings an asir seifa. And he does the avodah himself. He does it himself. That is his the first korban that a kohen brings on his first day, day one of being a kohen. He brings a korban. What is it? An asir seifa, and he does it himself. And this is true. This is true of a kohen gadol and a kohen hedyot on their first day of doing the avodah. They bring they bring an asir seifa. That they do themselves. And the din is this is required. They have to do this in order to be able to do the avodah. And avodah kshera. But if they didn't, the avodah is still going to be the avodah is still going to be kosher. There is a machlokes in the Girsas here, whether the way to read the Gemara is avodah kshera or the word is avodah psula, meaning is it ma'akev? What happens if you didn't bring the asir seifa? So there's a machlokes in Girsas as to what the din is, and this is a machlokes between discussed by the Mishnah Salio, whether or not this is a din of avodah kshera or avodah psula. Okay. Rabbi Mana wanted to say maybe Stein. If you have a kohen that he somehow or another he is inaugurated to be both a kohen and a kohen gadol on the same day. So on his day to become the kohen, so he's been practicing and learning all the rest of it. Somehow or another the kohen gadol dies, and he is the most fitting person on his day one to be the kohen gadol. So what's the din? What does he do? Maybe Stein says Mana, he's going to bring 2 asiris eifa karbanos. Achas lechinuchai, v'achas lechavasayah. One is going to be for his inauguration into being a kohen gadol. Ve'achas lechavasayah, and one because he's now the kohen gadol, he has to bring an asiris eifa. So both of those would be brought on the same day. Okay, now we are going to understand and discuss how the asiris eifa was made. Says the Gemara as follows, quoting from the pasuk. The pasuk says, "Al machvas b'shemen te'aseh murbechas te'aseh murbechas teviena tufinei minchas pitim takriv reach nichach Hashem," which means al machvas b'shemen. It has to be made on a griddle. That's al machvas b'shemen in oil. Te'aseh, it shall be made. Murbeches to Vienna, you're gonna bring it. Murbeches is scalded, which means hot water. That there's a boiling that happens. Yeah. Murbeches to Vienna, tufinei minchas pitim, baked as a mincha of pieces. Takriv reach nichach Hashem, you're going to bring it as a korban Hashem. Okay. Which means that there's a bunch of different things that are happening here. There is machvas v'shemen, that's frying. There is murbeches teviena, which is boiling. And tufinei means baking. How did they do this? What exactly was this situation? It says on tufinei, b'shas hava tufinei, ve'ein b'shachris tufine. When it is brought as a korban, it has to be baked. That's what tufine means. But ve'ein b'shachris tufine, but it's not baked in the morning, meaning it's not baked beforehand. It's only baked as it's being brought. Okay. Vaha taninan, and didn't we learn hemidu oise chavitin la'asos chavitin? The Mishnah in Talmud says that they would, every morning, they would appoint the people that are going to be making the chavitin to make the chavitin. Means these chavitin, which is the asiris eifa, is one of the chavitin, meaning mincha al machavas. So one of these chavitin, which is the asiris eifa, the makers of the chavitin are set up in the morning already. Says the Gemara, Amar Rabbi Chia bar Acha, says Rabbi Chia bar Acha, la'asos chamin lirvoicha. It doesn't mean that those are the people that were baking. It means the people that had to make the hot water that was going to boil this mincha. Tufine. So how do you learn tufine? Rabbi Yasa b'shem Rabbi Chanina says, Rabbi Yasa in the name of Rabbi Chanina. It means mitagna v'achar kach oifa asa. First it is fried and then it is baked. That's the order here. Rabbi Acha b'shem Rabbi Chanina oifa asa v'achar kach mitagna. He says the opposite. He says first you bake it and then you fry it. Tufine te'afena. Tufine means, after we've explained that machlokes, so tufine, what does that word mean? Te'afena, no, that's the drasha. You are going to bake it raw. What does baking raw mean? So we learned in Psachim that the word na doesn't mean completely raw. It means somewhat raw and somewhat cooked. So tufine means that you half bake it. That's what the tufine part means. It is, but tufine te'afena, not that you bake it once it is half cooked already. So they would half boil it, then they would bake it, which basically sounds like a bagel. Rebbe says te'afena not te'afena na, but te'afena na, bake it when it is beautiful. When it's still beautiful means It has to be baked before it gets fried. Once it's fried, it doesn't look so good. Once it's baked, it looks amazing. That's when you you bake it before it gets fried. Once it is boiled, then it is fried. Rabbi Dosa says, a third drasha, te'afena riba, it has to be baked a lot. Means not soft baked, but hard baked. Means that he holds of both of the shitas. That's how the Gemara learns. That's how the Gemara Menachos explains the din of Rabbi Dosa. In Menachos, that is Rabbi Yossi. So we have Rabbi Dosa, Rabbi Yosa. It means both of these dinim, both tafenu na and tafenu na. So Asyan Aln Plugsa the Kahinan Plugsa. The Gemara now wants to understand it. Our machlokes here is similar to another machlokes. What's the other machlokes? Mad Amud tafenu na, the one that says it has to be baked when it looks amazing, when it's the sheet of Rebbe. Commander Amar He's the shita that holds bake it and then fry it because it has to look good. Umanda Amar, the one that says tafenu na, that it has to be baked after it is half cooked. Commander Amar metagna v'achakach oife holds like the opinion that says that you fry it and then you bake it. Says the Gemara. Yeah, so meaning we match up the shitas. It says the Gemara loy soif, and going back to the question about the Kohen Gadol that dies, we had said that the Kohen Gadol who dies, the second half of his mincha, of his asir saifa, was brought. The second half of his minchas chavitin, was brought, and another Kohen was made into the Kohen Gadol that day. So then the guy that replaces him, the new Kohen Gadol, has to bring a full asir saifa, and then only brings half of it, and the other half gets destroyed. Says the Gemara, it's not only if the Kohen Gadol died. That's not the only case that you have such a thing. I feel nitma. That's also true if he became tamei. Meaning, if he is tamei and he cannot bring his korban, you have to have a stand-in. Surely that would be the case. What happens if he has a mum? So what happens is Asir Sefer doesn't get brought, and somebody else has to bring their own. Is that the case? Says the Gemara now. Tani reviewed the Bar Pazi Devar delay. He said the following. Bar Pazi de Bar Dalia came from a place called Bar Dalia. The din is even if it's nidche from a mum, that's the din, but not if he became tamei. If he became tamei, then he doesn't bring it, but he doesn't get another meaning because then he's not being fully replaced. It just he has to sit out for the day. Now the Gemara asks a question: How do you know that if a Kohen Gadol dies and they haven't yet appointed a successor, that his mincha has to be brought from his estate? Talmud Omer, the pasuk says, "Mibanav yaseh oisa." The pasuk says he has to make it from his sons. So what does that mean? Maybe that means that the Kohen that's died, has to pay. The son of the Kohen is going to bring the korbanos in the place of his father. Talmud Omer, the pasuk says, "Oisa," it. Says he has to make it kula amarti. I said kula amarti means I said all of it, meaning all of it has to be brought at once. And we're going to see the Gemara later is going to discuss. The next time is going to discuss what that means. Div Rabbi Yehuda, this is the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Shimon says, "Ein ba el mishal tzibur." It has to come from the tzibur, meaning it's not going to come from the Kohen Gadol. It has to come from the community. Shenemar, the pasuk says chok ola, that it has to be a chok forever, meaning it has to be for all time, which means mi she'abris krusalai, the relation that HaKadosh Baruch Hu establishes of eternity as Chayk Olam is not with the Kohen Gadol. It is with Klal Yisrael. Klal Yisrael has a bris krusa. We have a covenantal relationship with Hashem that the Jewish people exist forever. This particular Kohen Gadol doesn't have such a deal with Hashem. Hence, he dies. People die. But Klal Yisrael doesn't die. And therefore, Klal Yisrael is chayav in the place of the Kohen Gadol. Shabris krusa, kalil tiktar, kalil le haktar, which means it has to be burnt completely. And that's the end of the pasuk. That's the last limit that the Brisa puts in. And Be'ez Hashem, we will continue on Shabbos with the din of the Kohen Gadol Shemeis, explaining the halachas that we have discussed. Be'ez Hashem, wishing everybody a beautiful Shabbos. Those that are going to be around this Shabbos, we'll see you in Shul. Otherwise, we will see you Motzei Shabbos. Have a beautiful day and a beautiful Shabbos.